The Israelites are now at Mount Sinai, and the Lord wishes to establish a new covenant with them. But in order for them to establish His covenant, He has 10 commands that they must follow. What are these 10 commands, and what does it mean for the Israelite people? Let's find out. Hey there, everyone. Welcome to Tally Talks Bible. From the introduction, I'm sure you know what I'm going to talk about today. They're right there behind me. That's right. We're at the part in Exodus where the 10 Commandments are given to Moses. And these 10 Commandments are commandments that the Israelite people need to follow in order to make this covenant that the Lord wishes to make with them. We still follow a lot of these today. A lot of these commands that are given are now given to us on our heart. And they're good guidelines on how to live a good life, what we need to do. And it's a lot of people call it God's law. But these are the main 10. There are actually 613 total commands that the Lord ends up giving to the Israelites. But these 10 here are the big 10. This whole video, it's only going to be, these commands are given from, it's Exodus 20, and goes from it's like 21 verses in all. So I'm going to try to go through each command and give a little breakdown on everything, and just basically see where we can go from there. I think I can get through all 10 commands in one video. That is my goal, as long as I don't ramble too much. All right, let's get started. Like I said, I'm going to pick up chapter 20, and this is verse 1. And it starts, "And God spoke all these words. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me." All right, right out the gate. Verse 3. You shall have no other gods before me. This is God saying, hey, I'm the ultimate. I'm number one. I'm the Elohim of Elohim. This is where we get our monotheism, the worship of one God. Back in these days, you got Egypt. They had a multitude of gods for everything. They had a god for the sun. They had a god for the underworld, for, fertility, all kinds of gods. And it wasn't just them. The Canaanites had different gods. There are multitude of gods out there. But Yahweh is the number one. He's the top dog. And he's saying, you shall not have any other before me. And this next one is going to kind of go along with that. And it says, you shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. For I, the Lord, your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for sin of their parents, to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. All right, so this is the second command. And there's basically false idols. Again, back in the area that they're in, the Canaanites, the Egyptians, they all made statues of things. And they gave worship to these statues. And this is what it's going to. And it says in heaven above, on the earth, or water. So it's talking about, depictions of other gods. It's talking about, animals of the earth, like, bulls. It's a little foreshadowing for you. Or, anything in the water, like fish, things of that nature. There were people that made images of all these different things, and they bowed down to them in worship. And Yahweh is telling them, no, this is me. We're not going to be doing that. You're only going to be focused on me. Because a lot of that stuff, why would you make a carving of an animal and then give up praise to that? There's no meaning behind all that. None whatsoever. And that's what, the Lord is saying here. And he's going on and saying that if, I'm a jealous God and I will punish, 3 or 4 generations down the line, the sins of the parents. That doesn't really happen. The Lord is slow to anger, quick to forgive. There's not a real depiction of him punishing people for others. There's consequences that affect people, consequences of other people's sins that affect people, but nothing like, oh, well, your father did this. Oh, you're being punished. Oh, it was your grandfather. You're being punished. None of that really happened. Now, this next one, a lot of people think of a certain word or phrase as to what this is meaning, but there's a little bit more depth behind it. In verse 7 goes, "You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name." So, a lot of people think this is referring to, a certain word that you can say that is a, cuss word. But the depth in this is more like representing the Lord in a false way that would hurt his reputation. That's what he's meaning by this. So much so that, we have the form God, which we hear gods, but when we talk about Yahweh, we talk about capital G-O-D. And this is why, or we have the phrase Lord. And the reason being for that is because the Israelites, when writing the Bible, or, the other people, they were afraid to misrepresent him. So, I have Yahweh on my hat. But what they would do is they would take away the A and the E and leave everything else. It was a short form of his name without saying his name. And then you also have Adonai. They would refer to him as Adonai. Another way of saying he's just Lord. He's God. Without actually saying his name. Because they were so afraid that if they were to use his name in conversation or certain context, that this commandment, they would violate it. Therefore, they made other ways to refer to him without calling upon his actual name, which his actual name was given to us back here in Exodus 3, when he called Moses to the burning bush and he gave him his name. But I still think I'm going to make a video on the different names and everything like that. I mean, there's a bunch of different ones. But, mostly we refer to him as, Lord or God. All right. Now, this next one is a pretty lengthy one. And it's a very touchy subject. It's a very touchy subject back when Jesus was walking around with people who are experts on the law. And I'm going to spend a little time talking on this one. And it's verse 8. And it says, "Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you nor your son or your daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your animals, nor your foreigner residing in your towns. For 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. But he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy." Okay. Sabbath. It was a hot topic. Still kind of a hot topic. So it says Sabbath here. It's more referred to as Shabbat, or have you ever heard of a sabbatical, where someone just takes a long trip? This is where it's referred to as a reference. I practice Sabbath, and I love it. A lot of people think, that this day is the Sabbath day. You're meant to go to church on this day, or, the hot topic was, do you go on church on Saturday? Are you supposed to, worship the God as a seventh day Saturday, or is it Sunday? A lot of people go to church on Sunday around here in the U.S. And actually, I belong to a small church. There's not many of us, and we do practice and come together on Sabbath, which is Saturday, instead of Sunday, which is when a lot of people go to church. Now, I don't shame anybody to go to church on Sunday. I've been to church on Sunday. I believe that. I mean, the day, it doesn't say anything about, hey, right here, this is back in creation. The 7-day creation. Man was made for the Sabbath, not Sabbath for the man. So it's a day of rest. And I don't know why people would be against this. My family and I practice it. We love it. Friday nights is when it starts, because the true day starts and stops at night, biblically, because the starting of time, if you think about in the days of creation, it was dark. God had to bring in the light. So Sabbath starts from sundown Friday evening till sundown Saturday evening. And it's just a day you just don't work. You rest, you give up praise to God, you spend time with your family. This is the things we do. I personally like going. I'm thankful I live not far from a state park from where I'm at. And I can go out there and get on nature trails and just be in nature. And I go out there and pray, and just I'll walk around a trail and have an audio, reading of the Bible going in my ear or something similar. It's just a day of rest, and I think it is very important, and it is in the Ten Commandments, and I think everybody should, observe it. Even if you observe your Sabbath and then go to church on Sunday morning, I don't see anything wrong with that. And Jesus had a lot of pushback from supposed, experts on the law when he was around, talking about how he was coming and changing the Sabbath on how it was supposed to be done. But you got to understand too, we're going to have these commands here, and if you've been paying attention, if you read the Bible, read into any of these stories, what's going to happen to the Israelites? They're going to fail. They're not going to uphold these commandments. More commands are going to be put in place. They're going to fail again. More are going to be put in place of that to compensate for this, to compensate for that, and it's just going to keep failing, keep failing. If they had succeeded and followed these commands, they would have spread out and made everybody else follow these, because that was their purpose. They were supposed to be priests and supposed to be right with God and follow his commands and spread out to all the nations on how to live by the way Yahweh wanted us to. But as I'm here talking to you today about it, that didn't happen. That's why Jesus had to come. Jesus had to come and fulfill the law. That doesn't mean the law went away. I mean, obviously, when I start getting to these next commands, it's going to make sense. But Jesus is the Lord of the Sabbath. And he says to anyone who is tired, come to me and I will give you rest. When he comes back, his followers will have the ultimate Sabbath rest. And that's what I look forward to. Where there's no more hatred going around, there's no more pain, there's no more that part of what we're having to do right now. We go to work, we toil and toil at work to provide for our families, because a curse was put upon the ground when the serpent came into the Garden of Eden and tricked the woman. And then the woman told her husband, and the husband listened to his wife. But Jesus died for us, so we have a chance at the final Sabbath rest when he comes back. And that's what we all need to strive for, and that's what I strive for. And I don't claim a denomination. I don't like that word. It's a man-made construct. We shouldn't be putting titles on, it's okay. We don't agree with this. We don't agree with that. We talk. We talk calmly, have discussions. Just because you believe this, just because you believe that, don't mean we got to center. We got to focus on the one thing that we agree on, and that is that Jesus Christ died for our sins. That's what we ultimately have to come together on. He says, where there's one or more people that gather in my name, I am with you. That is church. We don't have to be, titled just because we don't agree on certain topics. We can come together and discuss things. But we don't live in a perfect world. And that's why Jesus had to die for us. And when he's coming back, he's going to make all that go away. And there is a remnant. remnant people. And this remnant is all of those who believe in him and follow what he says to do. But I had to ramble on about that. I knew that was going to be a hot button for me because I practice Sabbath, and not a lot of people agree with that. But like I said, I don't like the word denomination. I don't claim a denomination. The church I go to, it's just a little small church. It's not really non-denominational. I guess it kind of is. But even non-denominational, it's still a title. I prefer to refer to myself as a Bible nerd. It's right here in the book, right in front of me. It's right in front of y'all. But anyway, I'm going to move on and try to finish up these. I knew it was going to be pretty close. I'm looking at my timer right there. All right. And I will mention these like first 5 here. It's your relation with the Lord. These next 5 is going to be more relationship with people. Your neighbor. And number 5 is kind of like a mix. It's like a swapping point from how supposed to live with the Lord and people. It's like a segue, if you will. And it says, verse 12, honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. That's pretty plain and simple. And why I mean it's a mixture is because the Lord is our Father in heaven. Therefore, we need to honor our Father in heaven just like we would honor our earthly mother or father. That's why it's a mixer. That one's pretty simple. You just have respect for your parents. They brought you, through the grace of the Lord into this world. Okay, next one. You shall not murder. Now that one should be pretty plain Jane and simple, but there's more context to it. This right here was just put in place because in this time, you gotta realize and remember this is ancient times. There were people fighting over land, fighting over resources. They were just killing each other just to survive. They couldn't get along. And we're going to see later on here in the Bible, it gets pretty bad. But Jesus comes and says that to deal with this one, it's not just, oh, I had some bad thoughts about him, I'd kill him, but I didn't do it. So I followed the command. I didn't kill him, even though I thought about it, I didn't do it. Jesus says if you even have just a slight bit of hate in your heart for somebody, or just, don't really like them, that you're breaking this command right here. Because this, yes, you're not supposed to kill anybody. You don't go out murdering people. You're completing it. You're following the command. But if you have any contempt or hate in your heart for anybody, the ultimate goal of this command was for us to love each other and stop fighting. That's what this command was put in place for. Hey everyone, I'm going to have to make a small cut into this video. Somehow I managed to forget one of the commandments. I guess I just got so wrapped up in talking about the Sabbath and then trying to wrap up the video, I just accidentally skipped over this one. But one I skipped over was, you shall not commit adultery. Now, in this time, it was more so for the women. It was okay for a man, which, it's not like this today. It was okay for a man to, have multiple wives. Polygamy, if I can say it right, was actually okay. As you could see, of course, in the times of with Jacob, he had multiple wives, and it was so that they could have a large family. But if a woman that was married went to another man, that's where the adultery would come into. And we don't live by those terms nowadays. But Jesus actually pushes it further and says that it's not just for the women. It's for the men too. And it goes so far that to say that even if you look at a woman or another person and have lustful thoughts or intents, that you're actually breaking this command. And, it even comes around further and says also that if you divorce a woman and she remarries, you have forced her to commit adultery, which, all this is stuff that doesn't really apply to today. I mean, of course, if you're in a marriage, marriage is supposed to be holy and sanctified. We're supposed to be, when we get married, we come together as one, which is how, in creation, that's how it was. There was, man was created, which it wasn't really man at the time. It was just mankind was created. And then the Lord came and noticed that the man didn't have a partner like all the other animals. So he put the man to sleep and split him in half and made woman. That's why when we come together, we're whole. All right, now I'm going to jump back to the original video. Just wanted to make sure I get all the commandments in this one. All right, I'm going to, these next few, well, you shall not steal. That's pretty apparent. No, I mean, if we would just stop taking things from each other, we would have enough. Or if we have someone has abundance of something, share it with the person who doesn't. That's what this is talking about. This is why this is in place. Don't take other people's things, because that leads into, an argument, a dispute. And there's going to be a lot of stuff that it talks about when it gets into these other laws. I told you there's 613 commands that end up coming up through this, not just these 10. Your next one here is you shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. I mean, that's just basically saying if this person and this person is in the dispute, don't lie on somebody. Don't say they did something that they didn't do. That one's pretty short and sweet there. There's more to it, but I'm not going to dive too deep into it. Verse 17, you shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. This one goes right along with you shall not steal. It's not saying like, oh, you shouldn't, want certain things or anything like that. But, if you're going to covet over something somebody's got, that might lead you to wanting to go and take action and steal and take that thing. So this is put in place to say, don't even think about it. All right. I'm going to wrap this up. Verses 18 through 21. When the people saw the thunder and lightning and heard the trumpet and saw the mountain in smoke, they trembled with fear. They stayed at a distance and said to Moses, speak to us yourself and we will listen, but do not have God speak to us or we will die. Moses said to the people, do not be afraid. God has come to test you so that the fear of God will be with you to keep you from sinning. The people remained at a distance while Moses approached the thick darkness where God was. All right, so I'm gonna wrap it up right there. I'm just gonna finish that. I'm not gonna get into the next part of that. There's a couple more verses left in this chapter, but I'll pick that up on the next video. So now the Lord is going to put them to the test to see if they're going to follow these commands. And Moses is starting to go up to the Lord, and the Lord is going to talk to him about some things that I'll get into in the next video. And he's already saying that here's a test. All this, smoke and fire. That's how the Lord is shown. Fire, smoke, wind. That's how God shows Himself. And I guess they technically passed the test because they're like, don't let Him talk to us because we will die. So they do have fear of the Lord in this instance. But it's not going to last. That's all for now. I'd like to thank you for your time. Thank you for watching. And as always, God bless.